All right. So on Monday, we were talking about on this sloth and torpor or tinamida. And then I talk about mainly on overcoming on this tinamida. And the way of overcoming this tinamida, there are many ways. One of it is to go through with the way of vipassana. That means that we can use the way of cittanupassana or dhammanupassana. Cittanupassana, we just see the sleepiness or drowsiness directly, seeing how it grows, how it ends, how it change, getting stronger, getting weaker, it disappear, then it come back again. So when we see it in that way, we see it as cittanupassana. Then if we see this drowsiness or laziness of the mind, is when we notice its relationship with other factors or other conditions. That is to say, when you are noticing the sleepiness, and then you may notice that your head is nodding, your head is moving, your body is slouching perhaps, then you notice that the sloth and torpor arises, the drowsiness arises, then you notice that the slouching occurs. Then another sloth and torpor, another slouching, another sloth and torpor, another slouching. On one nodding, then it clears, then a sloth and torpor coming, then another nodding, then it clears, then another sloth and torpor coming. Then you see a series of nodding and a series of sloth and torpor arising and passing away. So in this way, we see the relationship between sloth and torpor and the body. Or sometimes you may notice that sloth and torpor arises. How they arises because of the certain condition, perhaps that when the temperature drops, when the temperature drops, and then you feel a bit cooler, and then you feel pleasant, and then you're slightly unmindful, then sloth and torpor or the laziness of the mind starts creeping in. So this way also, if we are mindful, if we are sharp, we can able to notice the relationship of these hindrances connected with other bodily or mental objects. Then in the samatha way, in the way of samatha, as I said, all the levels of jhana, if you can practice, if you have opportunity to develop the jhana, whether first jhana or to the eighth jhana. Now, all this level of jhana, they are very helpful to prevent all kinds of hindrances from coming in. But in the samatha, there's specifically the perception of light. Now, the perception of light here in the samatha practice, the perception of light is you imagine, we are not going, as I said, we are not going into jhana, into development of jhana. You want the development of jhana, that is another way. It's quite also another long explanation. Whereas for the overcoming sloth and torpor drowsiness, or even sometimes heavy drowsiness, that we change the perception, or we change the content of the mind. Normally when sloth and torpor comes in, or all this, the mind becomes very heavy, very sinking, very dark, very unclear. Then here is that we remember, we arouse, we create mentally, we create mentally brightness. We create mentally brightness, like for example, when a spotlight shine on us, or a torchlight shine on us, or we are looking at mentally we are looking at the sun, or we are in the bright area, like in the beach, in a sunny afternoon beach, where it's totally the sun is there, non-cloudy days, and then if you're able to remember and arouse that type of memory, and then you place it, right in front of Sloth and Torpor. And then it can clear the Sloth and Torpor very fast. Now, as long as you're able to clear the Sloth and Torpor, you clear that sleepiness away, then you have to drop that imagination. You have to drop that imagination, you have to drop that creation, and then you go back to your in-breath, out-breath, or your rising and falling. And then with that, it is very, very helpful to settle the mind and then continue with your observation, with your noting. This way, it doubts the, again, just like when you are in the ill will, we use the metta to overcome the ill will. Here also the same thing. We're using the perception of light to overcome the sloth and torpor. It can clear the sloth and torpor quite fast. In you're skillful, very fast. Within a few seconds, all gone. 30 seconds, all your heavy sleepiness, all gone. If you're skillful. But then, as I said, as a Vipassana meditator, we need to see the characteristic. We need to pay attention to it. So because a lot of time people use this perception of life just to clear it, but we forget that as a Vipassana meditator, we need to see the characteristic because they will come in different manner, different way. So in the long run, as a meditator, if you can see all these hindrances coming in different facets, sometimes strong, sometimes weak, sometimes this way, sometimes that way, sometimes how it sneak in, then you're kind of like very alert to all their nuances and this way or that way. That will be very good for the yogi. And also like indirect way of vipassana. Indirect way we mentioned about sitting and touching. You arouse using a clear object. Don't go and, you know that sloth and torpor is behind, it is there. Then you just put it aside. You forget about it. Go to a bodily object which is clear to you. Sitting and touching, or the whole body. You scan it up and down. Then not only that, you note it a bit faster. You note it a bit faster than normally you do the noting. Then also you label it a bit clearer, a bit louder. Then all these things, it arouses vitakka. Vitakka arouses, therefore effort comes in. And then at the same time, you pay attention to the sensation, that what you are noting. Then at the same time, mindfulness arises. So mindfulness comes with the effort. Together with the effort, therefore the mind becomes bright and clear. Because of that, there's a right effort, right mindfulness. Because they are wholesome, they clear the unwholesome state of mind. Now, if you cannot, also especially for beginners, then we get up and do the walking meditation. Walking meditation is also very good. As I said, sometimes the walking meditation, because the heaviness of the mind can be quite strong, then we can use the body posture while we are walking. It could be like the whole leg, left leg, right leg, rather than just a step, but it's taking the whole leg, noticing how they are moving, because they are much more bigger compared to the step, a bigger area. Then it helps to arouse that effort and mindfulness. Or you can notice the hips moving, or you can notice the shoulder moving. There's so many things that you can able to notice in the walking meditation. So when you do that, then it arouses a lot of this effort, mindfulness, then the sloth and torpor also cleared. So that is also one way of doing it. Now we usually don't recommend yogi do very fast walking, almost like running. That one it will tire you down later. Although for a short while you feel good, because you start to sweat, your body doing something, but your mind is not really alert. Later part, you'll see that the mind becomes tired again. The body becomes tired, and therefore the mind becomes tired. Then perception of light, just now samatha. Then after that, we have also the mindfulness of death. Mindfulness of death, again here, you reflect on death. you reflect on death. How this death will come in, we do not know. Especially right now, with all the cases, especially in Malaysia, is so high. Right now, we do not know when we're going to. We do not know when we're going to get it. The moment you go outside, unfortunately, then we get contracted with the COVID. So we really do not know. So how things was going to work out. So with that, hopefully you don't go into fear and go into a lot of negative anxiety. Here is to bring about, to remind ourselves that death can come in anytime. We are on the verge of death, and then whether you fall with COVID or cancer, or whether you fall from the staircase and broke the neck, we really do not know. So we able to see this death as something of something as understanding, with clarity, with wise attention, kind of like you're standing out, and then you look at death as it's going to occur sooner or later, and then with that sense of urgency arises, and then it clears away all that laziness of the mind. Now we're going to where's my... This one is later. This one, hold on, stop. Can you all see overcoming mental effort? Okay, overcoming mental effort in okay. So here that day I stopped. I finished until Vipassana and Samatha. All right. Now there are other skillful ways also. Hold on. Now there are other skillful ways. That there are 8 ways listed in the Anguttara Nikaya. This is on the Chapala Sutta. The English is called nodding or dozing. Okay. Now I take a portion of it. I take a portion of it. Hopefully you all can see. Now here, the sutta did not begin with this. The sutta did not begin with this one. The sutta begins with when the Buddha is staying one place and Moggallana is staying far away from the Buddha. And then with the Buddha's divine eye, he saw this venerable Mahamoggallana. It's nodding and going through a strong drowsiness. At that time, Mahamoggallana is not an arahant yet. It's not an arahant. It's enlightened, but it's not arahant yet. So the Buddha, with his psychic power, and then immediately appears in front of Mahamoggallana. Then after that, this particular sutta starts. Then he asks, "Are you dozing, Moggallana? Are you dozing?" If any teacher were to suddenly appear in front of you, no matter how you sleepy, you will definitely go alert. We don't have to go through all these things. We don't have to go through. Anyone, any teacher, any monk, just suddenly appear in front of you. With the psychic power, of course. Suddenly comes in. Oh. But then, although it makes things very alert, very clear, sometimes we know that while we are in the practice, we know that sometimes the Sayadaw is coming, checking. Sometimes you can hear their footsteps. You know that the Sayadaw is there. You cannot go sleepy one at the time. You cannot go sleepy at the time. It's only when nobody checking and all that, then only the mind gets lazy. But anyway, it's good that we know there are different ways of how we can able to overcome the drowsiness, as mentioned by different techniques from the Buddha. Okay. Therefore, Mongalana, you should attend or cultivate the object that you were attending to when you you should not attend to or cultivate the object that you were attending to when you became drowsy. By such means, it is possible that your drowsiness will be abandoned. Now, what it means by you should not attend or cultivate the object that you were attending to when you became drowsy. Now, just now we were talking about it. This is not a direct vipassana, because in the direct vipassana, you have to see the true nature of the drowsiness. Then, not attending to the object, it means that you can go indirect vipassana. You can go indirect vipassana, or you can use samatha, or you can use other skillful ways. But this one is more of like you are doing in the sitting, you are meditating. Just like Mongalana, he is sitting and he's became drowsy. So at that moment of time, you don't go into that particular. You don't go and follow the in breath, out breath, or the rising and falling. You take notice of other objects, sitting, touching, or the scanning and so on, or the lights and so on. Now, if you cannot, you should ponder, examine, and mentally inspect the Dhamma as you have heard it and learned it. Here, you should ponder. Now, here, meaning that when you are drowsy, the Buddha recommends also that you can able to bring up a certain Dhamma, or Dhamma talk, or Dhamma that you have read in the suttas or in the other texts, then you bring it up and you examine it for a while. What is the meaning of this? But this one, you also have to be careful, because if you examine too much, if you go into too much, then it goes into restlessness. Too much of mental thinking of the Dhamma. So if you able to examine the Dhamma, for example, if you are sleepy, then you recall on the recollection of death, for example. You recall on the that you are old age, for example. Then you recall those things, you inspect the Dhamma, then you examine it, then as you have heard and learned it, then it may arouse energy and then overcome the sloth and torpor. This is one of the way, but don't do it too much, this one. Or you should recite in the detail the Dhamma as you have heard it and learned it. Recite here means that you're going to chanting, recitation. Recitation, that means it comes into verbal aspect. The second one, you ponder the Dhamma, is on the mental aspect. This one is a bit more drastic, more stronger, because it involve a verbal, this one, verbal speech. Then it can be helpful. If you begin to like iti piso bhagawa, then it can be very helpful. Because as long as there's nobody beside you, if you're not if you're in a retreat, we don't encourage you to do that, because you'll be disturbing other yogis. But if you're meditating alone in the forest, in your room, in your kuti, then you can do whatever you want. As long as it's because you're alone, all right? So you can do this also, but you must not overdo it. Some devotees, they love chanting, which is wonderful, very good. They can remember a lot of the chanting. I cannot remember so many, unfortunately. But there are people devotees who are pro. They are really a professional chanter. They can remember a lot of it, which is good. Now, the thing is that this chanting, sometimes they start off with a meditation with some chanting. And then after that, they go into sitting. That is also good, because it stimulates the mind a little bit. It stimulates the mind a bit, and then after that, when you finish that chanting, you go into sitting. Your mind is more or less quite active, and not so dull and so on. But this one you got to be careful. Don't do it too much. Some people can do it 1 hour, 2 hours of chanting. Then if they do too much until the mind becomes restless, then after that, when you sit down, also you have to deal with the restlessness. So you must know your limit. You just feel when the mind is going to have too much thinking and so on, then kind of sort of like taper it off, then go into meditation. So then you see, when it comes to number 4, you see, first one you don't get up yet, you attend other this one. Then after that is a mental inspection. Then after that is a verbal. Now it comes to your physical already. Physical here, you should pull your both ears and limbs with your hands. Now here, in the areas of the ears, or rub your limbs and so on. As we Chinese we're all good at all these meridian points and so on. When your ears also, if you just kind of like press it, pull it and so on, sometimes it kind of like stimulate the points and so on, and then it trigger off sensation in the other parts of the body, and it helps to arouse the body too. You rub your limbs, sometimes your palm of your hands, also is good. And there, you should get up from your seat, rub your eyes with water, survey all quarters, and look at the constellation and stars. What it means here is that you get up, you go and wash your face, rub your eyes with water, and look at the constellation and stars. Now here, of course, perhaps Mongalana is meditating in the evening or at night at this time. So that's why the Buddha says constellation and stars. But what is important here is that you get up. When you're drowsy, you get up, and then you look at places which is far away. If you are meditating in the afternoon, of course you cannot see all the stars and constellation and so on. But you can see perhaps mountains far away. If you can see the mountains far away, then you stand there and kind of like you just put your attention there on the mountain. Don't look here and there. Don't kind of enjoy the scenery. You kind of like you are seeing things far away with mindfulness. With that, sometimes with that brightness coming in, then it helps to overcome the sleepiness, the kind of drowsiness. Now here again, number 6 is on the perception of light. Again, here is on the meditation. Here is on meditation. Perception of light, you should undertake the perception of day. Thus, as by day, so as night, as at night, so by day. When the mind is open, uncovered, you should develop a mind imbued with luminosity. Okay? It creates perception of light. That means you are able to create this light at will. And it's good because, obviously, you are going through every time you meditate, or most of the time when you meditate, or when you go through a retreat, you have a lot of this drowsiness. So this perception of light, it's a very helpful. So as I said, this perception of light, you mentally create it, that you can very familiar with that type of, that source of light or that source of brightness, and then you put it into the mind for a while, put it on top of the sloth and torpor, then you clear it, like you clear the sloth and torpor quite fast. Again, these are skills. This is something that you have to do it when you are drowsy. Yeah? I mean, it's good that right now you remember how to do it, because it makes the meditation more exciting. Because right now, drowsiness also you can do this, do that, do this, and do that. And it makes the meditation more interesting. Even if the next sitting that you're going to do is going to be drowsy and so on, then you try this, and try that, try this, and try that. So when you try this way and that way, you become familiar with the skills. You know that what is able to overcome, what cannot. And then when it comes the next time you try this and try that again, then you'll see you become very skillful in overcoming the hindrances of this sloth and torpor. Because if not, for some yogis, this sloth and torpor, it's a very difficult thing to overcome. Many people, very difficult to overcome because they do not know what ways to do. Now, if you cannot overcome your drowsiness in such a way, you should undertake the exercise of walking back and forth, perceiving what is behind you and what is in front, with your sense faculties drawn in and your mind collected. That means when you are doing this walking meditation, you make sure that it's not like looking here, looking there. Your sense faculties drawn in, that means you're hearing, smelling, tasting, seeing especially. Kind of like, it's like 6 feet in front of you, 8 feet in front of you, just about that only, not more than that. Don't let your eyes go here and there, with the mind collected, and also not like thinking here, thinking there. Walking. Number 8. Number 8 is, again here, if you cannot abandon your drowsiness in such a way, you should lie down on the right side in the lion's posture, with one foot overlapping the other, mindful and clearly comprehending. After noting in your mind the idea of rising, when you awaken, you should get up quickly, thinking, I will not be intent on the pleasure of rest, on the pleasure of sloth, the pleasure of sleep. In this way, Moggallana, that you should train yourself. Now, this one, the Buddha also mentioned that one should lie down if everything that you try on above, it doesn't work. But the problem is, yogis, this is your number one, The rest is not number one. The rest is not number one. Every time you are sleepy, you already want to look for some places to sleep already. You want to look for places to lie down. Especially when I was in Burma, when I've seen yogis meditating, they're sleepy only. They go and look for where they place all the cushion. They place the cushion nicely, and then they just sit there and lie down there. Where you're sitting cushions and so on. It feels so good. So this one you got to be careful. This is your last resort. Now, in this lion's posture, sometimes you see the lying posture of a Buddha. That how the Buddha lies and the feet is on top of each. The feet is on top of each other, overlapping on the other. This is called the lion's posture. But you have to be mindful and clear comprehending. So here, when you lie down in this way, if you find that in this way is good for you, then you lie down. Some people find that this way may not be so comfortable. They want to lie down on their back. That means they look up and then they lie down on the back. It also is not a problem. You can do that also. Now, when you lie down, first of all, the trick of to rest the body is to make sure that while you are lying down there, your senses also must not be here and there. It is drawn in, just like number 7. Your senses has to be drawn in the sense that your attention is kind of aware of the whole body very lightly. Just gently have a light. If the thoughts comes in, just put it aside. Just gently push it aside and just softly, gently on the awareness of on the whole body like that. Not like noting the hardness or softness or warmness. No, it's more like a gentle going through the whole body. And in that way, your senses are drawn in right onto the body. And when your mind is resting, then it begins to stimulate, arouse the body to rest also. It begins to condition the body to rest. So here also when you are resting in this way, while you're resting, if you so happen to doze off, then let it be doze off. If you don't doze off, then it doesn't matter. Just close your eyes, then just be aware, gently aware in this way. Yeah. Then the Buddha says the idea of rising, after noting in your mind the idea of rising, that means in our modern times, we go by minutes, how many minutes that we want to rest. If you want to rest for half an hour, 30 minutes, let's say, then you have to be mindful of the time. Then you tell yourself before you lie down that I will lie down for half an hour. Then with half an hour, I should get up already, and not, as the Buddha says, not intend the pleasure of rest, love, or pleasure of sleep. Yeah? So here is that you make a clear intention. And when you do in this way, it's kind of a clear comprehension of your intention. You intend. Your major intention is just to rest the body and not for the pleasure of sloth, not the pleasure of sleep. Yeah? You're clear about your intention. So you lie down there. So you lie down, be mindful, be aware, doze off, and then if you got the alarm, you set it half an hour, then you get up, then after that you go meditate again. Sometimes half an hour may not be enough. Sometimes it's enough, sometimes may not, because again, different days, you have a different ways, different, and the body can be a bit more tired and so on. But nevertheless, half an hour, you get up. Now, sometimes when you get up, then there's still a bit of tiredness in the body. Then during in the sitting, that time, then you try to overcome that sloth and torpor. Or when in the walking, you try to overcome that sloth and torpor. So in this way, it is good. So about half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour will be good enough. Don't go too much. Don't go too much. With this also, with the number 8 of idea of sleeping, or idea of resting, not really sleeping, it is good that when you are meditating, you have a schedule. Like, especially like in the Mahasi style, we have a schedule. What time you are supposed to sit, what time you are supposed to walk, what time you are supposed to sit and walk. Even your lunchtime, everything is being prepared for you. And you follow this schedule. Now, a lot of people, a lot of yogis, once they see this type of meditation, they see this type of meditation is very limiting. They are not open. They are not this one. They are not flexible. Most of the time, the yogis don't realize that your flexibility, your openness is another word for laziness. You want to do what you want. And one of the things that you want to do is you want to sleep as long as you want. We know your trick. We know that the trick of the yogis. Because if you don't have a discipline, one of the first thing that you want is to, when like after lunch, or you want to go and rest, and you rest as much as you want, then only you want to get up and kam guan already, and then only you meditate. Or so for some people that meditate halfway, and then maybe 3 or 4 p.m. they get so drowsy. Okay, flexible ma, go into the room and lie down. Because you can do what you want. You thought that openness and flexibility, it's a very good way, not so tight. No, actually, your hindrances is being very happy, but your discipline is not so strong. But when you have a schedule, when the teachers is monitoring you, if you don't come in for the sitting, the teachers will go into your kuti or go into your room and start knocking. This is the Mahasi way, if you're supposed to be sitting and then if you kuti not there, and then they'll look for you in the toilet also. This is how come these people are so strict and so that because of that laziness. It's not a sleepiness, but it's a sloth and torpor in the sense of laziness. You just want to do your own way, relax. Don't want to meditate. That is what you should be careful. So for those who are not doing Mahasi method, I can understand. But next time when you go for your own retreat, next time you make a schedule for yourself. And you make a schedule for yourself and then you try to follow your own schedule as best as possible. And then you must be reasonable. And then you must not rest too much. You must not lie down too much. You must have a schedule that you must know a time to walk and time to sit and time to do something, and you should not go more than that. If not, our desire want to do other things, look at the phone, look at this, do other things, then it overwhelm your time. It take away your time for meditation. So it's good that you have a schedule. One of the benefit of this schedule is overcoming our sloth and torpor. There are other benefits also. Perhaps in the later talks we will talk about that. Now, talking about lying down or sleeping at night. Sometimes when you are in a retreat also, you may not be able to sleep at night. One of the things is that whole day you'll be sleeping already during in your sitting meditation. Every sitting you're already sitting from morning, 2 or 3 sitting, afternoon also sleep. Of course, in the night you're so awake. So that is for a lot of yogis, they cannot sleep at night because they're sleeping. Then that is, in the beginning, yes. Perhaps that some yogis go through that, we can understand. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. There are another type of yogis also. Another type of yogis is that they strive. They strive and then they don't have much sleepiness in the afternoon, or in the morning. They don't have much sleepiness. Then they practice and they come to at night now, the mind is still bright, but the body is tired. The body is really tired, but the mind is bright. So they lie down, they cannot really go into sleep. So normally when they go through that, and then when the yogi gone through that because they don't get a good night rest, then the next day they become, last night didn't sleep, today's meditation is going to koya already, we're going to have it's going to be difficult, it's going to be a lot of sloth and torpor and so on. That understandable. But what you can do next time when you are in a retreat, especially when you are in the retreat, or even right now when you are at home, and sometimes when you lie down, that you cannot able to sleep, but you need the body to rest, and you need the mind to rest also, but may not be that type of sleep. So here it's where the gentle mindfulness starts coming in again. Now, when you lie down, you intend to sleep, and then you wake up in the morning at a certain time. Okay, well and good. So you lie down there, but you cannot doze off. Or you doze off a bit, then it wakes again. Doze off a bit, and you wake again. And then here is where a lot of times we get a lot of worry and anxiety about tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be a bad day because now I'm not able to sleep, I cannot able to meditate, I will not able to work, I'll be going to the office, I'll be groggy, I'll be meeting with people, be groggy, and so on. So here we get a lot of thinking, a lot of anxiety. Huh? So, so right now, is that what you can do also again? It's the same thing that just now I mentioned about the lying down posture. When you lie down, again, you'll be gently, you just sweep the mind through. Don't let the mind goes into a lot of thinking, a lot of thinking, wondering, worrying about tomorrow, and so on. Then that type of worrying, that type of anxiety that you go through is the one that is that type of restlessness is the one that it makes the body become restless. Once it makes the body become restless, you'll be fidgeting on your bed. Not only fidgeting, but you'll be rolling to the left, to the right, you'll be looking up, looking down, here and there, and so on, Then, of course, the more that you fidget, the more you become restless, the more you want to start thinking. Then after that, because of restlessness, you bring in your iPad or your phone, and then you begin to look at all the contents and so on, and then you become even more restless. So that way, because you are feeding that restlessness again and again into the night. So what you should do again, as I said, you lie down there. You gently just be aware of the body, just sweeping up, sweeping down gently. Or sometimes, if the sensation is more clearer, then just gently just settle the mind onto that sensation without trying to note hard, soft, changing, and so on. Don't do that. You do that again, it arouses a lot of effort. So here you want to settle the mind. You want to really to settle, to calm the mind. Just put the mind there. These things I have gone through, during the retreat. Whenever I cannot sleep, I do this way. Then the next day, I find that in the next morning when it comes, when your body is not anxiety, you don't have to go through all the turning and tossing, then the whole body is relaxed. Just by that soft mindfulness throughout the night, then the body is relaxed, the mind is alert. Then you can still able to meditate without having that much sleep, because sort of like you are resting at that time. So do the same thing, like as we get older, then perhaps in the middle of the night, you're going to get up to the bathroom, and then when you want to come back and lie down again, then the whole mind is alert, and then you try to do this way. Don't feel so anxiety about tomorrow. So lie down there, very soft, very gentle, and then if the mind can doze off, it doze off. If you wake up again, don't get angry with yourself. Just be patient, just be calm, and then if the mind can doze off, cannot doze off, just just relax there. And it's a very helpful, so that the next day you are in a way relaxed. So in next day, you can still able to go to your office and function properly without that too much of a tiredness. Okay, so this is something that you should train. Not whenever you especially right now when you are not in retreat. There are days that you may not able to sleep. Then you do this way. This is something that like this is something that which is good. All right, this is on the this one, but in other places, other skillful ways, the Buddha also mentioned reduce the food intake. This is more of I think a commentary or the Buddha. I forgot. Commentary also mentioned. Yeah, reduce the food intake. Now here. Again here, reducing the food intake, not only just moderation, but reducing. Because sometimes we tend to eat too much. Because as long as you are in the world of abundance, that means every day you have a lot of food to eat. normal days you have food to eat. Sometimes we kind of like overeat a lot of times. We monks, we have one or two meals at breakfast and lunch, or sometimes for some people just lunch. For you all, it's like dinner and then in between tea time and snacks some more, and then then you surely get fat because you're in a lockdown. Most of you are in a lockdown, and then when you're getting anxiety, you snack a little bit here, you snack a little bit there. You gain weight. Some yogis are gain some devotees are gaining weight. But then on the opposite sense, because of that COVID thing, and then cases are coming up, and then there's so much anxiety, so much fear, and then that is where they get so thin. Also on another extreme. So here, when you reduce the food intake, especially when you are in the retreat time, you reduce the food intake a little bit than normal, then sometimes you may see that the afternoons, especially in the afternoons or even after breakfast, then you don't feel so much of a drowsiness. The drowsiness is less. But then the side effect of it is that when it comes in the evening, that is where you don't have enough sometimes bodily energy. Meditation, sometimes we just thinking that for people who are outside, you see that you're walking so slow, well, just up and down. After that, sit, walk so slow. How much energy you need? But you don't realize that how much energy is being used up in the mental noting. That noting is used up a lot of physical energy. A lot of physical energy, especially when you can able to sustain, when your progress getting better, and you can able to sustain that mindfulness to be like 1 hour or continuously, it takes up a lot of physical energy. It takes up a lot of physical energy. That's why sometimes when it comes into like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, oh my goodness, you find that you're so sleepy, you're so drowsy, no energy, the mind still want to push, but the body just cannot. The energy is depleting. Sometimes at this time, it's good that just to take like honey. The Buddha allowed like chatumadu. Chatu means four. Like you can have what is the four? Molasses or honey, and then you have butter. Also ghee, also I think so. And one more is sugar, I think. Yeah. Then it becomes oil. Yeah, ghee is oil or something like that. Then it makes the body very kind of like some energy to the body. Sometimes they take this, then it gives some energy for maybe like another 2 hours. You can meditate. After that, you need to rest already. So reducing the food intake also is important. Normally, yogis, in a 2 weeks retreat, or let's say a 2 weeks retreat, when an organizer organizes a 2 weeks retreat, normally the first few days and first 3 days, the yogis tend to eat more because they are bringing their habit. They are bringing their habit from their everyday life. Then they come into the retreat. When the first 3 days, yogis tend to eat more. Then after the 3rd day or 4th day, you see that a lot of begin to have more and more leftovers. Here it means that the yogis have been reducing the food intake. One thing of the food intake is because of why? Because of the mindfulness is begin to getting stronger. So as it gets stronger, then you see the intake of the food it's getting less, and the leftover is getting more. And normally, the organizer will start to reduce the food also. In every retreat, as long as the yogis is doing their job. If the yogis are still not doing their job, and then you see that the amount will still be the same. The amount of intake will still be the same, but you'll see that normally the food intake will begin to reduce during in the retreat. Yeah? Then other skillful ways is also you attend to a suitable talks. That means you mix with people who are energetic. When you mix with people who are energetic, they talk about things which is arousing energy. Despise all this laziness of the body, laziness of the mind. So sometimes this, when you go into meditation, especially like in the retreat, then also suitable talks at the right time, it give you that encouragement. It gives you that encouragement to push that chanda, that desire to push, to push, and then sometimes with that type of chanda, when you go into sitting or walking, the mindfulness gets stronger, then the sleepiness gets less. Yeah? At one time, long ago, I think maybe like 25 years ago, maybe, about there, when Sayadaw Ponika was doing a retreat in where? Kota Tinggi, in Kota Tinggi. Yeah. So I was attending that, but those retreat. Yeah. And then he was giving like a talk on parami. He can talk about parami, and then he inspired this, inspired that, and then especially the older ladies wow, they listen to the talk and say, wonderful, so inspiring, so wonderful, and then they meditate whole night. Where the energy come from? Where all the energy come from? Because of the suitable talks sometimes. So you associate with those who are energetic, and then that is also very good. Okay. This is on the sloth and torpor. So as I said, this sloth and torpor, a lot of talking and talking. There's some goodness in it, but most importantly is that you go experience it yourself. Of course, you experience it in the past, but you have to look at it in a new light, that you can able to overcome it with various ways. Then this time, when you go into meditation, sloth and torpor becomes an exciting object to you. Rather than just something drowsy and so on, but it becomes something more exciting. So, got time or not? Okay, we got a few more minutes. They will talk about hindrances of restlessness and regret, uddacha and kukucha. So stop this sharing. Hold on, and I go into. Hold on. Okay, then we share again. Okay. Right. A little bit. Now, when we talk about restlessness and regret, this is the fourth hindrance in the five hindrances. This is the fourth hindrance. Restlessness and regret here, they are two unwholesome mental states. They are different. This restlessness, uddacha, they are universal unwholesome mental state. Universal here means it comes in every time whenever your mind is default. When every time your mind is default, therefore you have this restlessness. Whereas regret or kukucha, you do not, this is not a universal unwholesome mental state. It comes in when the condition is there. Certain condition is there, it comes in, but it does not come in with every unwholesome mental state. But restlessness is. So, this restlessness and sloth and torpor, they are opposite of each other. Whereas like when we talk about sensual desire and ill will, they are also opposite of each other. Because sensual pleasures and ill will, they are connected with what is pleasant and what is unpleasant to you. Right? What is pleasant to you, what is unpleasant to you, what is the perception is beautiful to you, what is perception is not beautiful to you. So it's an opposite. Restlessness, sloth and torpor and restlessness and regret, they are again the third and the fourth hindrance. They are also opposite of each other. Here is the opposite of that mental effort. Whereas sloth and torpor, you have the not enough right effort. That's why you go into sloth and torpor. Whereas restlessness and regret, you have too much wrong effort. It's too much of a wrong effort. If you have right effort, of course, it's not you won't have go into restlessness. It's because of wrong effort, too much of wrong effort. Then it goes into restlessness or regret. Another way of looking at it also, you see, the word restlessness from the Pali word uddacha. Literally, you call shaking above or hovering or floating above. The Pali word. Here, it's like a flies on the feces or on your food, and it's just buzzing around, round, go on top of it. It doesn't land there, but it go round, something like that. So again, it's the same thing when we are restless. The mind is kind of like on top. We cannot settle down onto the object. We cannot settle down. It's just like hovering or shaking or floating on above in that sense. Just like opposite of sloth. Sloth, that we talk about mentally sinking down, heavy. Like it's heavy, it's going down, it's very deep inside there, in the abyss like that. Whereas this is on the top, shaking, hovering on the top. So they give you this one, imagery of it. Now, in the restlessness, there are so many English words for it. Now, we talk about it. Sometimes we use the word restlessness, distracted, agitation, flurry, scattered, overexcitement, wandering mind. All these things, it's give you a image, or it give you a concept, or like a monkey swinging from one branch to another. They're not able to settle down. They keep on moving in that sense. Regret, kukucha. The word ku in Pali is usually means bad, even the word kusita. Kusita means like a lazy person, which is connected to sloth and torpor. A lazy person. Ku means also is something bad. Kicha means work or duty or service or things that should be done. So it's something that badly done in the past, badly done. So the literal meaning is that. So sometimes we use the word regret, worry, or guilt. Now, here, before we talk about this restlessness, and we can talk about this restlessness, the next talk also. But nowadays, when I'm dealing with the yogis, most of the time is I have to deal with the restlessness. Restlessness, a lot of thinking. Too much thinking, in fact. Sloth and torpor, not to say we don't have. Usually we have it for the first few days, and then usually yogis and the way that I've seen those yogis, they're not so lazy. They follow the timetable, they meditate, and they carry on. They're not so lazy in that sense, But the restlessness, it's a lot. The restlessness is because of our work, your career, your lifestyle, that we are always seeking for something to do, seeking for information, and we crave for it. We desire for this information that we don't realize that the craving or the clinging is so strong. Take for example, nowadays, you see that whenever you are relaxed outside or sometimes inside the house, whenever you are relaxed, you got free time, what do? You turn on your computer, or you go and use your mobile phone. You play games. You look for news. You go into Facebook. You go into YouTube. You go into TikTok. You go into Instagram, and so on. Why do we go into those things? Because the mind clings or craves for information, crave for news, crave for excitement. We don't want the mind to be bored and then this one. We want to make the mind always have something to do. And then over time, and then how many years do we have all these mobile phones? How many years have you been working? And over time, we keep on going through all this type of habits, this bad habit. Then we don't realize that we don't really realize that we keep on looking at all these things, and the craving so strong. So whenever we go into a meditation, you find that there's a flurry of thoughts. There's agitation everywhere. That's why it's difficult to overcome. The agitation, when there's distracted thoughts, the thinking thoughts, and those things are so much, until there are some yogis on the verge of anxiety, fear, because overthinking. And overthinking is one of the biggest problem in the mental health problem, nowadays. Overthink too much because they thought that by thinking and thinking will give rise to happiness, but they don't realize is that the mind craves for thoughts, the mind craves for information, the mind craves for news, the mind craves for excitement. They keep on going in this way. Don't really know what is the meaning of a settled mind. So that's why one of the most difficult as a teacher and looking at all these things, then also and it's one of the biggest problem a yogi go through. Sometimes also when we come into new meditator, sometimes they have not gone into a retreat before, and then once in a while they meditate because they are Buddhists, Oh, people say meditate is good. People say that meditate is this one. Then they try. Then they sit down there, so much thinking. Then they come to see me because they know that I'm a teacher in meditation. Then after that, I was thinking, how am I going to help you? First of all, you do not know a lot of things about meditation. And then you quickly want to have settled the mind already. It's not easy because your habit is so strong. You keep on feeding the desire. That's why we cannot able to settle the mind. You see that this one, a lot of times we have to deal with this. And this is the nature of our life right now. We have to use the mobile phones, we have to use this thing and that for information. We go into office also, we have to use all these things. Our whole life is all on information and so on. So that's why it's very difficult to settle the mind. So what are we going to do? So what are we going to do? You see, you want to see what is restless mind. You want to see what is restless mind completely in its full blown. Next time you have, let's say if you are a teacher, you give your Zoom classes. Now you got your Zoom classes and you got your Zoom classes or whatever class. You finish that online session, or you have a meeting with your bosses or your subordinates or people. If you have a meeting, then immediately you go into a sitting meditation. All these things, You when you go into sitting meditation, then you see a full blown of a restlessness, and you see how scattered the mind is. You try to pay attention to your in breath, out breath, all to the rising and falling. You cannot do that because your mind is so restless. This is what we call the mind is so distracted, agitation, flurry, scattered, and so on. Yeah. So you see, when it comes into during in the retreat, and it can be quite strong. Yeah? So here the characteristic is called disquietude. Disquietude. That means the mind is not quiet at all. The mind is so noisy with all kinds of thoughts and all kind of flurry here and there. As I said, here when they talk about the characteristic function manifestation, they talk about it at the full blown. So yeah, full blown. If you really want to see what is full blown of restlessness, I said, go in after when you have a Zoom meeting. If you are the one who talking, not the one you are listening. You're the one you are talking. You go into that, then it's going to be difficult. Unsettledness, unstillness of the mind. This is the whole characteristic of it. Can you see that the mind is running from one thought to another thought to another thought. The function of this restlessness is to make the mind unsteady. That you can see that the mind is unsettled, unsteady, like a flag whipped by the wind. Then you can see that it's like turmoil or turbulence or like a tornado, like a hurricane inside there. Then you can see these things very clearly. We are going to talk about this restlessness, how all this unwise attention towards the mental disquietude. We're going to talk about regret and so on. All these things we're going to talk about it in the next talk, because this one is also a very, very big area that we have to overcome. Okay, so we'll stop here for the night, and then we'll continue this talk on Monday. So on Friday, we have a Q&A. If you have any questions, then you send it to the chat that we already, this one, question on the Dhamma, or on the talk, or on the practice, whichever. Okay, so we stop here for the night.